Hello and welcome to Really Cool People, a podcast produced by Schweitzer Church. I'm your host, Jason Leininger. This is a place to hear stories of really cool people. And the hope is that as you and I listen, we'll be inspired, encouraged, and challenged through moments of serendipity. You see, in a sermon entitled The Weight of Glory, C.S. Lewis said, there are no ordinary people. You and I, we've never talked to a mere mortal. It's my joy over the next few moments to introduce you to somebody who may seem rather ordinary, especially to themselves, and yet they're a really cool person. Today, we're going to meet Jan Pusetari. Jan's going to tell the story of growing up in Oklahoma and then Southwest Missouri, and then having a family, and then the loss that many families endure, the loss of a husband, and the loss of a dad. And she's going to talk about that, and then how she moved on, where the church came in, and how she's built a life after loss. So I encourage you, over the next few moments, lean in, listen to Jan Pusetari. Welcome, Jan. Let's start with your story.
Well, I think to start my story, we probably need to start at the beginning.
Okay.
I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so I'm an Okie, and lived there till I was about 5 years old. My dad developed the heat wave furnace in like 1947, and he and his partner, after I'm assuming some production, his partner was raised around Republic, and they decided, whatever men think in their minds, to move the business to Aurora, Oklahoma. Not Aurora, Oklahoma. There is probably not Aurora, Missouri. And that's how we ended up. Dad bought some acreage, and he had a man that did the farm for him. And I went, believe it or not, I went to a country school. First grade through eighth grade. It is a unique experience because you have, 14-year-old boys in the class in the same place as you have 5-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And you all have recess at the same time. And I can remember one instance. I must have been in the 5th or 6th grade. They thought it would be funny to tie the girls to the flag post. And then, of course, Miss Betty was the teacher at the time, and she'd have to come out and untie whichever girl was there. But, if you're used to a bathroom like we have now, but that's not the kind of bathroom they had. They had I don't know what the name is for now, but the girls were here and the boys were over here.
Outhouses?
Outhouses. Thank you, Jason. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. And then when I graduated from the 8th grade, I went to Mount Vernon High School. Mm-hmm. And then when I graduated from there, I went to South SMS.
Okay.
And it was there that I met my first husband, Jerry. And we married in 1962. And from that point, I think he worked most of that time for Roadway. He was a dispatcher. And we moved to St. Louis at one point, and he was a dispatcher in St. Louis. I never went into the city. We lived in one of the outlying towns. And it was there that Andrea, and Andrea's my second child. I have three, two girls and a boy. And Andrea and her family do come to Schweitzer. And anyway, I'd already had one girl, Tracy, and then it was in that area or that time space that Andrea was born. We were there, maybe 4 years, maybe 5 years. And I think Jerry probably complained every time he went into work, dispatched, and he dispatched at night. He worked the night shift. And, he wanted to go back to this area. He wanted to come back. And when we did come back, we came back to Republic. And I taught school at the junior high, 7th and 8th grade. And I know this will sound really strange to a lot of teachers. I really liked 7th and 8th graders. I really did. And I taught English and reading. And then...
What'd you like about 7th and 8th graders?
Once you figure them out, you have to figure them out because they're just there to make your life miserable. So you've got to figure out how you're not going to do what you think you're going to do. So I got things like coupons at McDonald's and things like that. Each class competed. And at the end of class, I would tell them how many points, how many stick people they had. And this would go on for, 3 or 4 weeks. And then whoever won got the coupons. Then you'd go back and you'd find something else they wanted. And when you can give them something to work on, to keep them busy. And I haven't taught in a very, very long time. My children, Tracy works, oh my goodness, I'm just going blank. Who does she work for? The drug company. Oh, well, we'll just forget that. Andrea's a school teacher. And then I have a son that is in Georgia, and he works for the government. I'm not quite sure what the title would be. He's told me many times, and it kind of goes in one ear and out the other.
What's his name?
Jay. We call him Jay. His real name is Jerry Philip Riggins. And Jerry was after his father, and Philip was after my dad. And I just didn't want to be yelling Jerry, and I'd have 2 guys answer at the same time. So he is Jay, and I don't know of anybody that calls him Jerry. And so anyway, and so the big thing in my life, we had milk, the big milk trucks that went to the farms.
Yeah.
That's what we had. And he would run, Jerry would run a couple of days a week, and then he had people, men, that would run the route give him days off. And I believe this was a Monday. And I got up and got ready for school. And he got ready to go run the milk route. And he said to me, "Honey, have a good day." And I said to him, "Be careful." Well, he wasn't. For whatever reason, no one will ever know because no one was there. So he was at his last producer. He had picked up the milk. I know there was a hill involved, and there was a train coming. And for whatever reason, he put that milk truck on the tracks and was hit by the train.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Threw him out the front of the truck. I can't, once upon a time, I could tell you how far he flew through the air. I'm afraid I can't anymore. So this is happening, and I don't know anything about it. I'm home from school. From sudden, he hauled milk from mid-am.
Mm-hmm.
And I get this call from mid-am. And they say, Jan, do you know which route Jerry's on today? I said, no, I don't have any idea. I just know he's out hauling milk. And this went on 3 times. I'd get these calls from mid-am asking me questions about Jerry. Well, the milk trucks were not kept at our house, needless to say. We had 2 of them.
Okay.
And so I went over to where the trucks were kept, and I got up in one truck, and I looked through it and to see if I could find any information indicating who was on the route that day, the second route. So I found some paper, and so I knew it was the other guy. It wasn't Jerry. And finally, I get a call that said, Jan, you need to go to Mercy. And so I called a friend, and I said, Cheryl, I got to get to the hospital, and I need your help. I can't do it. The kids, Andrea and Jay, Andrea drove her car to the hospital. And I don't know, Jason, if you've ever been in one of those rooms that they put you in when it's bad. And, as time went on, Jerry's brother came, family members came, that room was full. Now, something I have not said, and I should have, I was not raised in a church. I don't know if you know anything about it, but my grandmother and my mother were Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Have you heard of it?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. And, but of course, when we were in Tulsa, they had a church there. But, I'm a kid. I'm not going to go into the service. But anyway, I just wanted to make the point that I wasn't raised in church. I wasn't raised with a Bible. When we went out to the farm, there wasn't a Latter-day Saint church anywhere. And I do believe that if you don't go to church, can say, like you should every Sunday, it just becomes part of your life that you don't go. So sorry, I should have said that at near the beginning, because that's important, that I didn't have that training. I didn't have that. And so anyway, getting back to the story, the doctors had come in and told us, and this was Jerry's brother and my mother, and it was just the whole family, and told us that, he he was really bunged up. He had hit his head on a metal post, and he was just torn up, his head and his body.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, they told me specifically, but Jason, it's been a long, long time for me. And so the second time they came back in, they just nodded their head. That's all they did. They came to the door, they nodded their heads, and they left. They did say if I wanted to, I could see Jerry. Well, we still have a friend that he's a highway patrolman, and he came in the room. He knelt down, and he said, "Jan, don't do it." He said, "I've done a lot of autopsies and been in the room when they performed them." And he said, "Don't do it." And I didn't. Am I glad I didn't? Probably so. I don't think I have never seen anybody in death. And I don't know, it was just something that I thought, no, better to remember Jerry as he was this morning when he went to work. And the room was noisy, crying. And I had prayed to the Lord that I would push Jerry in a wheelchair if he would only live. I was just so beside myself that some things I couldn't think to do, but suddenly I thought, oh dear Lord, please protect me and Tracy and Andrea and Jay. And a voice spoke to me. It was not my voice. It was not a voice I have ever heard. And the voice said, "This will not destroy you, nor will it destroy your children." And life goes on, and it was really hard. It was hard for me. Jerry died in May, and I didn't go back to school till the fall. It's a struggle every day. Here, this happens in May, okay, June, July, and school starts sometime in August. And there were days that it was a struggle. And I was fortunate to have very, very good friends. Jerry and I ran around with couples that their children were my children and his children's friends. And we went to a lot of football games together and a lot of basketball games. And after a certain point, they never went anywhere that they didn't take me. Whatever it was, if they went out to eat, they took me. And the reason I was willing to go is when my dad died and friends came to, console my mother. And of course, when they leave, okay, my mother's name was Ervil. So that's a kind of an unusual name. But anyway, they said, "Oh, Ervil, come, we'll have lunch or something." My mother never went. If someone called and wanted to do something, she wasn't going to. So having that information, I knew I didn't want that. I didn't because, Jason, I was an only child. So if my mother got upset or any, guess who got to help put her, things right. And I thought, I'm not going to do that to my children because I'm an only child. And so I probably see things a little differently than children that have brothers and sisters. So, so I didn't. Yeah, I'll come. And we went to football games and basketball games, and if they went out to eat, they took me. I don't know if you remember because of the age here. Do you remember the story Ghost?
The movie?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they take me this, but they don't tell me the title. It's just, Jan, we're going to the movies. Come and go with us. Okay. Have you ever seen the movie Ghost?
I've not seen the movie. I've seen, I think I Lifted Weights. Well, it was another movie in that, but Lifted Weights to one of the soundtracks for that.
Yeah. So we really get into the movie where it really gets serious and something's going to happen. And of course it does. The relationship between all the characters and the ghost. And I made it, of course, I made it to the restroom after. There, the tears started. I went, this was the movie at the mall, and you could go out and not have to go out the front. You could go out the side. So that's where I went. And I just boo-hooed. I just cried and cried and cried. And finally, a woman came by and she looked at me and she said, boy, that movie must have been a good one. And here I am, and I thought, well, that's probably what conclusion, But anyway, and then I finally got myself together and went inside and joined my friends that were waiting for me. And but when grief's involved, you do moments like that that maybe no rhyme or reason to it. It just comes out of your mind. So let me tell you where Schweitzer comes in.
Yeah.
I was involved with a few women that, divorce during the early 90s was pretty, there was a lot of it. And so I was in a group, and all of the women were in the process of getting divorces. So I just kind of sat there. And finally, one of my good friends was sitting beside me. And she said, Jan, you need to come to Schweitzer. They have a group, soaring solos, that are for widows and widowers and divorce people, men or women. So the next Sunday, I was here in Schweitzer. And I joined that group, and we did everything together. I mean, we would go to movies. They, at the beginning of the month, sat down and they scheduled an activity for every night of the week. Now, you didn't have to go. It was just offered. And it might be going to someone's house and playing cards, or it might be someone's house watching a movie. And we went to basketball games together. And and we did go to theaters together, and we met every Sunday while I think one of the services was going on, but we met. And usually what it was is the people that, out of every group, there's a group that makes everything else move. They get together and they enjoy. And so anyway, usually after the Sunday school, we would go out to eat. Then I got involved. These friends of mine, let's just stay and the second service. And every spring and fall, we had a workshop. And that was for people in the same position that we were in. They were divorced, or they had lost a loved one, so we had workshops, and that would be a weekend that we would gather in the group. If I was in a group, then there would be a gentleman that was, I'm sorry, I'm stuttering on you, that was there for the same reason that I was there. And then on Sunday, when the altar was still in there, on Sunday, the very last thing was we all gathered there, came out of your groups, and you gathered there. And we had the piece of paper that you put it on the candle and it goes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it seems to me there might have been, because we wrote a message, and I can't remember what it was. But anyway, so we come now to almost the present and dawn.
Yeah.
So we were all sitting together, our friends. And, in a group that large, you find the ones that share your beliefs. I've had people say derogatory remarks about soaring solos. And I said, that's true. You may know that they go out and drink or they do this or that. But I said, you don't have to. You will find the people that have the same beliefs that you do. And of course, in my circumstance, one or two of the women that I'd known most of my life with children and everything. And so they were there we supported each other, and we ran around together and, all of that. And so then it's a Sunday, and I had sat down with my friends, but something, I don't know, I can't remember, but I needed to get back up. And I got to the back, and here stood Don. And he didn't know what to do. You come in a group like that, and if you don't know anybody, or, I think I smiled at him. And I did whatever the reason I was in the back of the room, and I went back and joined my friends. So that was my first time of seeing Don. And then he, of course, started coming to Schweitzer. And he also started running around in that group that I can't tell you what men were there in that group. And so anyway, we eventually started dating. And then decided to get married and got married, of course, here at Schweitzer. And that's where we are now is, Don's a really nice guy. And he does really nice things for me. And I probably left out something, but yeah, I usually just don't miss on Sunday morning being here at Schweitzer.
Well, I've got a number of questions for you out of the story that you've said to me. So you've talked kind of sequentially, but then you haven't necessarily nailed down the time frames of when some of these things happen. Like you said, you got married, I think, 1962, first time to Jerry. And then when did Jerry die? What year did he pass away?
1989.
89. And
yeah.
How many of your kids were at home then?
Tracy had graduated from college, and she was working her first job. And the two that were at home was Andrea, and she was getting ready to go off, to Drury, to school. She wanted to be a teacher. So, and then Jay was the last one. He I think it was about 4 days after the funeral, he graduated from 8th grade, into high school. Yeah. So he had 4 years in school. And, Jerry was the kind of dad that he helped basketball and he did football and he did all of those things. And I think his death was extremely hard on him more than any of the two girls. Because they had something to look forward to. Andrea was going to college. She was going to have all that experience. And and Jay, it's hard to raise children and where there is death. And how do you explain it to them? And then, I know some of the things that Jay probably tried to do, he wouldn't have done if his dad had been alive. And, but, he's 4 years and he graduates and he's off to Drury. So, it's all the kids graduated from Drury. And
how did you, that obviously really reshaped your life and the story of your life.
Oh, yes.
With Andrea going off to school in the fall and then not having Jerry there, it's like you went from a house of 4 down to a house of 2. That's a pretty dramatic shift. And then to put grief in the midst of it, how'd you help your kids, teenage kids, walk through that sense of grief?
Jason, I don't know that I did. I look back and I thought, did we as a family ever sit down and talk about Jerry's death? I think, Jason, it took everything I had to go day by day. And you cry in the morning and you try to get through the day without crying. And then, you cry at night, cry yourself to sleep a lot of nights. And
You said there that while you were in the hospital, you prayed, kind of bargained with God. And then you went back and talked about a little bit about your faith formation growing up, how your mom and grandmother had been part of the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ. But then you grew up not going to church, not having a faith formation. What was inside of you that prompted you to pray in that moment, to even bargain with God, to begin asking the Lord?
Because it was a
Yeah.
bargain. Jason, I don't know. I do know. Okay, one of my grandmothers, my mother's mother, lived with us. Oh my gosh, till maybe I was 11 years old, and I slept with my grandmother, and she had me do the now I lay me down to sleep.
Yeah.
Yes, and we did that every night. So I did have a relationship with the Lord to know enough that I should be praying, asking Him for help, because I didn't know how I was going to get through it. I didn't know. To me, that's the worst thing that can happen to you, is to die and leave your family.
Mm-hmm.
And but the Lord is good.
The Lord is good.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're able to say that prayer. And then about what time was it that you came to Schweitzer?
I'd say Jerry died in 1989, and I probably started around 1990.
Okay.
It wasn't very long that I came here, and I was really I really needed it, and the Lord got me here through another person, but I got here.
And then when did you meet Don? Or when did you marry?
You would ask me that, wouldn't you? We got married, I believe it was 1994, 95, somewhere in there. And then, by then I told him, I said, we're going to Schweitzer. We're not going to go to your church. So that he didn't argue with me about it. He said, okay. And so he joined Schweitzer.
Uh-huh.
And
was Jerry out of the house by that point? He had gone to college, I guess.
Oh, you mean
or
Jay?
Yeah, sorry.
Yes. He was, like I said, he went to Drury. I had built a house after Jerry died, and so Jay had his own room and all of that. And he lived in an apartment. I can't even tell you there at Drury how they set up their buildings now and how they set them up then. But he had an apartment. Part of the time he drove a truck on the weekends for Coca-Cola and went around to the stores to see if they needed, they'd run out. And they,
So in that sense, he followed in his dad's footsteps.
In that respect, yeah. Now he definitely not. He's involved in the government.
But you don't know what he does.
No, well, it's not that he's refused to tell me. He's told me, but one ear and out the other. I'd have to write it down, Jason, to remember, and then I could look and tell you, oh, this is what he does.
Yeah.
Nope.
So, how many grandkids do you have?
I have 5. He has 3 daughters. Andrea has 2 sons. And probably you've seen the 6'5" guy that roams around here.
I have.
That's Vance.
Vance is pretty impressive.
Yeah, yes. And he wants to get a scholarship to play football, and he's up now to 285 pounds, and he wants to be 300 and something.
Does he want you to tell that on a podcast?
I don't know. I didn't ask permission. They know me. That my grandsons, I am particularly close to them. because they're right here.
Mm-hmm.
And Don and I, go to a lot of baseball games and football games and, things like that.
Yeah. So how do you tell your grandkids stories about the past? Do you cover some of that with them?
I have.
Yeah.
Gavin, who I called Jay half the time. Gavin is 22 and Vance is 17.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if it, comes up.
Yeah.
With that, Jason, I'm a little bit pulled because I don't want Don to feel badly
Mm-hmm.
to talk about Jerry all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sometimes a little sticky that you just don't want to bring that up. To those boys, Don is their grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing that, they know that Jerry is their grandfather, but they've seen his picture, but they've never heard his voice. And, but Don is granddad. Mm-hmm. So that's important for them. They need that time with him.
Mm-hmm. What do you and Don do that you really enjoy together? That's made like this second season of life like really flourish? Because
I hate to admit that probably we don't do much.
Did you stop going to movies?
Yeah. But there's so many on TV. Why do you have to spend your money and go? But I like movies. I really do enjoy them. And but we have friends. I have every month the friends I was talking about from Republic, the women. We meet every month up here in Springfield, and we have lunch. And so I felt like I haven't lost contact with some people that were very, very important in my life at one time. Mm-hmm. And so they, I enjoy that. Now, a lot of people in the Republic, I do remember their names, but a lot of times I don't remember, under what circumstance did I know them? I don't know that.
When did you retire from teaching?
I went the next year and taught, and it was very difficult. And so I never went back after that. I did that 1 year, and it just emotionally with dealing with the kids, mm-hmm. and then going through the what I was going through with the grief, mm-hmm. and there's something embarrassing if you start crying in front of a class of 7th or 8th graders. And I cannot remember back that, I might have. I can't tell you that I never cried in front of a class, mm-hmm. but it just was, Jerry was, like I have said, very involved with the kids and their games. And so there was a lot of memories, mm-hmm. having to do with that. And, but Jerry's still in my life, and he always will be. And that doesn't bother Don, mm-hmm. at all. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he understands that.
Did you ever pick up another profession or career after that?
Yes. I owned a daycare. owned one in Ozark, and we had one here in Springfield. And I wish I could tell you the street. It's right across from the Baptist church.
There's only about 100
I
Baptist
know.
churches.
So try to guess which one.
Yeah.
But anyway, we started the one in Ozark, and then we decided to expand. And so we started one in Springfield, and I ran the one in Ozark. And then at some point, Helena and I switched, because that's quite a drive for me from Republic. And considering then, we didn't have the highways and all that we do now. And then I worked the one, it was called Rise and Shine. And so I did that. Oh my gosh. I don't know if it was 10 years. Anyway, it was about that time that my mother's health started going downhill. And she was up here in Springfield at, once upon a time I could tell you where she was. But anyway, they knew that if she had to go to the hospital, they'd call me. So I never knew what time of the day, what I was doing at the school. But when they called me, I dropped everything, because I never knew, how serious it was or what was going on. My father had already passed, and I was the only one for my mother. And with her illnesses, and as she got older, it just wasn't worth me continuing in daycare.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions of reflection right now. Like, have you accumulated over your life any scripture passages that mean a lot to you or speak to you frequently, or you go back to?
No, I don't. There might be, now in my life, Jason, you have to think about my age, what I can remember and, and what I can't. And no, I can do a lot of nursery rhymes, but I can't do, isn't that awful to say that, but I can't do the biblical.
That's okay.
And I really, I'm not proud of myself that I don't know more.
Well, let's thinking about that. What are some of your high points of accomplishments that you think about or you're reminded of?
Well, I was an only child, and you don't have to share anything with anybody, and you mostly get everything you ask for. And I know that's a weak, silly, vain thing to say. My children and both my husbands. I've often thought Jerry is the one that was raised a Methodist, but he wasn't one to go to church. And I don't know if as a teenager he had other things he wanted to do, and going to church was the last one, but his mother made him. And all of the Riggins went to church. And so he didn't particularly have a good feeling in going to church. And then, like I said, he was in the Air Force. And by the time he came home, Yeah, he would have to have started all over again, I think, and he didn't want to do that. But yeah.
What do you look forward to?
I look forward to being with my children, my grandsons. I look forward to, I'm a knitter. I love to knit, but I've got arthritis in that thumb. I don't know if you've seen them advertised or not, but they advertise them on television, and they sit and you put your feet in there. Well, my birthday was in January, and I got one from my kids, from Andrea and Tracy. So I do that every day, at least once. And I don't know what gets me up in the morning. Sometimes I think it's just me. I'm not easily upset. Not since I've gone through all of what I have. And I go to the Bible group. And if they have any parties or anything, I belong to Home Builders, and they have parties every once in a while. And there's just Donna and I would say lead a very quiet life.
Until you go to parties.
Until I go to parties. And I would say I like people. I like to talk. And, that gives me, now it gives, we're looking, I shouldn't say this, don't put it on the, take that out. I was going to say, I am looking forward. I said we, I used the wrong pronoun. I am looking forward to moving into a retirement, a senior, because, there's a lot of things I can do. There's a lot of women that are looking for, things to do. I could knit. And that's, I don't know that that'll happen because Don's a little reluctant to move. But I would like to do that.
What do you pray for?
I pray for my children and Don and my grandchildren. And at times I pray for Schweitzer. I would think, Jason, at that point, it's whatever's going on that I think I am. What I would like to do is pray every night. I have to admit, I don't. I have a cross that, pardon me, I started out keeping it under my pillow, and it always worked its way to the floor. So now I keep it beside my bed. I do like to hold that when I pray. I used to get down on my knees, but now I can't get down on my knees any longer. I could get down, but wrong husband, Don would have to come and get me because I don't think I could get up. But, and in just this world, it's just, of course, I was born in the 40s. That was World War II. And that's what everybody was concerned about. But there's just a lot going on, and it's not all good.
Is there any quote or comment, any bit of wisdom that you've kind of lived by or you've picked up that you think, if I had a real chance to just sit down and say maybe to my kids, grandkids, here's kind of a summary of my life, or a thing I want you to always remember. This is it.
Oh, that's a good idea. I just don't think I've ever done it. It's just that's, and not to say, now we did pray when all the Pages, my mother's side of the family, would pray at mealtime, but I was never raised doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That was just when it was her brothers were there, and it wasn't an everyday occurrence. And everything that you have mentioned, yes, that's a good thing to do. Did I do it growing up? Do I do it now? Probably not. But I did a lot of praying when we had the group that journeyed with people.
Mm-hmm.
And it hadn't been that long ago that it was here at Schweitzer. And I found that, Jason, very, very fulfilling, because a lot of times I was assigned women that were going through the same thing I had already been through.
Mm-hmm.
They lost their husband. So it not that what I say is golden or anything, but you have an insight that most people, why is she, it's over, stop crying. And that's not the way it works for a lot of people. Now, for some, yes, it probably does. They can cry or not on key, but no, I never had that experience.
Grief changes over time, doesn't it?
Yes. Could I have had this conversation with you 20 years ago? No.
Yeah.
But I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm here at Schweitzer. Donna and I have a good marriage. I've got out of my 3 children, I've got 2, and I've got 2 grandsons here. And what could I be sad about?
Yeah.
It's just good.
Yeah.
And there's times that I pray to the Lord. I try to do it every night. I can't say that I do it every night, but I try. And I hope that's all he expects of us, that at least we try.
Jan, thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing your story.
To be honest with you, when I got your letter, oh gosh, do I want to do this? Or, And I talked to a person that was asked but didn't do it. And I thought, but what can I give to the people that will listen?
Mm-hmm.
And I have had experiences in my life that a lot of people will go through life and not have.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, if I can just, in a very, very small way, tell people, you're torn apart now. You don't know whether to go left or right or up or down, but you will survive.
A big thank you to Jan for sharing her story. In listening today, I hope that you were inspired, encouraged, and challenged, and that you begin to behold the really cool people that are around you each and every day. The Really Cool People podcast is produced by Schweitzer Church, Springfield, Missouri. Taylor Likes is the executive producer and editor, and I'm your host, Jason Leininger. Thanks for joining today. You can help us by liking, reviewing, and sharing this podcast. Until next time, stay cool.